Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. Thanks, Chris. Welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show this Wednesday, and we've got another fantastic guest coming up for you today. And we don't know how we keep getting these amazing guests in, but it's happening. So we're very excited, and we got a lot to talk about with our guest today. Chris Hooley's just joined us because his technology has died on him seconds before joining the stream, but you are here. Hello, Chris.
Yeah, I had a weird case of, I thought I was going to be in two places there at the same time. I thought it was just going to be two of me on the screen because I miraculously fixed it in the moment that it came up.
Well, that is quite remarkable. It was the second we went live, you managed to pop on the screen. So I'm impressed.
Like a true professional.
Very, very true professional, which is exactly what we are not. And you may have noticed we are not professionals, but you know, it's part of our charm, I think. So how's your week been? Anything interesting happened?
I have a 2-week-old that's currently destroying all the hours of sleep that I get. So,
well, you know, it's a wonderful thing to do, but you know, it does affect your sleep quite a lot. But all okay, all good?
Yeah, I'm actually finding this is strange, but I'm reading more than I did before because I'm waking up at like 3 in the morning, and then in order to get back to sleep, I read for a little bit. Yeah, so I'm reading books at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4.
Well, is there anyone in particular that's making you fall asleep with their book?
You see, that's a good thing. You have to pick the right book in order to feel satisfied, but fall asleep as well. So yeah, I don't want to say who I'm reading at the minute.
It does help.
It's helping me, but yeah.
So hello to you on the chat that people are engaging with us. You're welcome to send questions in throughout this, and I'm sure we will appreciate the questions. We always do so. We'll have about half an hour of an interview with the author. Then we kind of open the grounds for you guys to send a lot in and have a bit of fun at the end. So it's going to be a good show. We hope you get involved, and happy Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. I sent out a tweet this morning. We're halfway there, Bon Jovi style. I'm sure like 2 people got the reference, but you know, halfway there. I'm impressed. So let's start the show off with the Be a Token book promotion, as we always do. And Hooley's already looking up there. So today's sponsor is by Teresa E. Sargent. You can see this at the bottom of your screen now, at Teresa Sargent on Twitter. And her book is called Inner Demons. It's 3 fantasy tales. So it's a short story collection of 3 books, 3 stories. And it's only had 1 rating at the moment. So it'd be quite nice if you fancy a short fantasy read, maybe to mix up what's going on in the world these days, jump on there and give us some support. So you can see that on the screen. And I will check up the image in the top corner right now, which is kind of small on there, but that's the cover. You'll see that on Amazon if you do find it. So shall we get on with the guest today, Chris?
We should.
And I
should wait in the green room.
She is that fantastic green room of ours that exists in the magical world. But we forgot to ask how to pronounce the name beforehand. And you know how we do with this.
Oh, I know how to pronounce it, I think. I'm pretty sure, but I want to see you do it.
Do we? Okay, but if I get it wrong, you just say it, right?
Okay.
So today, ladies and gentlemen, I can't even say that properly. Ladies and gentlemen, let's please introduce ROSAMUND Lupton.
Oh, Chris.
No? Oh,
Perfect.
goodness. Yes, thank you.
Very good.
Hello. How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's really lovely to be here. Really great.
Until I try to pronounce your name, that was. How do you say it exactly, if you don't mind?
ROSAMUND LUPTON.
Oh, wasn't far away.
Like Lipton tea, but with a U, Lupton. Yes.
Amazing. So it's very fantastic to have you on the show, and we've got a lot to talk about with your books because there's a lot of history there with your writing, and your books have done quite well, if I may say so. Yeah. And they've got a few reviews from a few big names as well, so there's a lot to talk about there. But first of all, how are you doing? And it's great to see an author come on the show with a great background, because often we do get some fantastic bookcases behind them, but you have, I think, the biggest one we've seen.
I do, and I have bookcases wherever there's a wall. I've just got books everywhere in my house, and it's years and years of books. And I'm very bad at throwing them out or giving them to charity shops. I kind of hoard them. So,
do you know what your oldest book is on that shelf?
Probably there's some really little old ones up there, which I think my grandmother gave me. And they're things like, you know, Robert Louis Stevenson and very ancient covers. So
wow.
They're probably my oldest ones. Yeah.
Fantastic. So all is well?
Yeah, all good. Surviving lockdown, just about. And Yeah, my son's a vaccinator, so that's all quite interesting.
Oh, wow.
Bring back saying all the people he's vaccinated that day, so that's
Yeah.
good.
I bet he's been very, very busy.
He has been quite busy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there was a question there, and it's just literally bounced out of my head. Hang on. No, it's gone. It's gone. That'll come back. That'll come back. So, as we start the show, what we like to do, even though people can check this out on the website and in the description, you can actually get to that link now. But let's try and find out where writing came from in your life and how that was inspired.
Okay. Well, I started writing as a very young child, really young. I mean, like 5, and I always wanted to write stories. And I wrote some really terrible stories, but my parents were always very, very nice about them, which I think helped. And then I tried to write a book. I did a terrible job when I left university and was really miserable. And then I left it and wrote a novel. And it was a terrible novel, which I threw away. It was that bad. It was really, really bad. It was incredibly self-referential. And I think it was good. It kind of got it all out of the way, all the sort of autobiographical stuff that I wanted to talk about. And I couldn't write. So anyway, and then I decided to be like a TV writer. And I thought that'd be cool. And I didn't realize the skill and the kind of craft of it. So it took me years. And I was really broke for a long time. And I think that's part of the trick of being a writer, is just learning to exist on virtually no money for a long time and doing all sorts of odd jobs to keep yourself going. And then the BBC at the time had this thing called, I can't remember, Writers Workshop. I think it's where they sent their alcoholic directors, apparently, to recuperate. That was in those days. And they'd make short films. So what you did was they didn't pay you anything, but you'd write a short film and it would get made. And that was really valuable because you just saw what worked on screen. And then I was still really poor, obviously, because that didn't pay. And then I was a winner of a competition. And so I got something made. And then I still didn't get any money. And then somebody dropped out of a show, writing the second episode of a show called Medics, and they had no one who could do it apart from me. So they got me to write the second episode of this show.
Wow.
And I didn't mess up too badly. And once you've done one, then you get a career. So I wrote lots of TV. And then I had kids and TVing little, well, you said you've got a baby, 2-week-old baby. It's not a great mix, right? Deadlines and babies. And I remember reading in the night as well. So my career basically nosedived. And then when my youngest started school, I thought, well, what I've really always wanted to do is write a book. Directors used to get really upset with me. They said I wrote too much stage direction. So I was always trying to do too much, really, with scripts. I was always doing more than I was meant to as a script writer. I was like the costume director and the location manager. I was much too kind of control freaky about it. But you can write all of that, and you've got the interior lives of your characters, which for me was a real liberation, because those meaningful glances and those symbolic landscapes could give way to actually going into the thoughts of what somebody was really thinking and feeling. So I wrote my first book, and it was terrible. I mean, it ended up being successful, but that wasn't the story. The story was being rejected by every agent you've ever heard of or not heard of. And, it was really tough until you get the one phone call that says, oh, I really like it.
I had the image then, the classic scene in a film when they're trying to pick someone and avoiding that one person. You're like, me, I'll do it. And then they gave you the job.
Yeah, exactly.
But you kept saying about your work and how you found it terrible and that, your first book was very successful. And we'll kind of talk about that in a minute. But obviously it got there in the end. So if you didn't have the doubt in that book at the time, were you very surprised at when it did get picked up, and even more so at the kind of response it had?
Yeah, well, it was never meant to be a very successful book. I was a new writer, I had a new agent and a new editor. It was all of our first jobs. And no budget, a tiny publisher. And so it was just, this little book. And I was so excited that it was getting published, but I didn't think it would do well or sell well. And then Richard and Judy started their new book club with Smiths. And they chose my book as the first book of that book club. So what I got, which a lot of writers don't, and it's really unfair that they don't, but I got this massive push, marketing budget, basically. And that put it into people's hands. I mean, it just made it very visible. And I see an awful lot of really good books that don't get that. And hopefully in the end, they get that appreciation. But mine was very fast. And it's very, it's not representative. And it was luck. I mean, it was pure luck that happened to be. I think they wanted a debut author to see what the book club could do.
Which is still going. So your book was the very first book ever on that show.
Yeah, on the Smiths, Richard and Judy, and they partnered.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Like how do you know anything about that process? Because I've heard some writers' stories where they've like sat across the table from Richard and Judy and they've been like willing them to pick their book mentally and stuff like that. Or people have tried to deliver it to them and drop it on the front door and all this sort of thing.
Yeah, I've heard those stories as well. I mean, I've met them now a few times and they are really nice and they are real writers themselves and they're great to be interviewed by because they really get writing. It's really interesting talking to them. They're much the best. My book, I had a very clever editor, young editor, and she gave it to people at Smith's head office. So she didn't give it to Richard and Judy. She just gave it free copies to people at Smith's and they really liked it. So then they told Richard and Judy about it. So I think that was how they got it. I don't think it was literally put into Richard or Judy's hand. So that and it had a really good cover. And again, that's luck. It was. I said I wanted a black and white photograph with a girl in red. That was the kind of image I had, and that was sourced and it was done really nicely. And I think that helped as a sort of package. If you're talking about sales of books, I think luck and packaging, unfortunately, play a part in that, and that's why some books do really well that don't necessarily deserve to do really well. And other books you think really they should have done brilliantly and don't to start with, although I think over time they probably do because I think readers build up. But yeah, I had that huge stroke of luck. Yeah.
It was on your website, it states that your debut book that we're talking about right now has sold over 1.5 million copies worldwide.
Yeah, I know.
It's incredible. So for someone that is released this book who had obviously a bit of doubt in their work at the time and kind of got that stroke of luck, it is about exposure, and us as indie authors know that very much. We try and plug away and get exposed all the time, and even still you don't get that much sort of take up. So when you had that launching pad, even then, did you expect it to go to the lengths that it did?
Oh God, no, I was just astonished. I mean, I really couldn't believe it. I mean, we'd moved house to the country. I didn't know anyone. I had little kids. So there was no moment to go, oh, wow, this is amazing. Because there was no one really to say that to you. So I was kind of quite calm about it all. It all felt very unreal. Which is probably quite good for my kind of big-headedness and also expectations for future books because other books aren't going to get that again.
Yeah.
One of the things that's interesting is if you get a debut that does really well, and I think at the moment a lot of debuts have a lot of money thrown at them and a lot of buzz. It's second, third, fourth books that you then have to keep going with as a writer. And I think that can be the real challenge.
It definitely puts an extra expectation on your shoulders then in the next few books. And did you feel that when you were stepping into the next section of work?
Yeah, I did. I think you do feel that weight of expectation and the publishers definitely do as well. And that's quite hard because also readers want a certain style of book from you or certain things they like in the first book. So, I mean, I didn't dwell on it too much. I mean, I was kind of living my life and just grateful, really, that one book had done well. And I'm still grateful, really, and still rather surprised.
So a lot of people that listen to the show are really intrigued about the writing process of just how you come to create these sort of really successful novels. Did that writing process change for you from the first novel to obviously now the books that you're writing at the moment? Has that changed at all?
Well, with Sister, my first one, I wrote, I wanted to write about the relationship between sisters, but I wanted to write something that a publisher might publish. So I wanted to do page turning. I couldn't imagine why anyone else would turn the pages unless there was a kind of mystery. So I wrote this almost like the poster going, please turn the page, please turn the page. So I wrote that kind of book, which was kind of plotted like you would plot a chess match almost, only I didn't. I just wrote it without doing that work. And then publishers kind of go, well, we love the first 50 pages, but everything else. And I thought, yeah, because I put a baddie up and knocked them down, another one, knocked them down. There was no plotting through it. So I had to unpick it all and replot. So the story and the characters stayed the same, but the plot needed completely reworking. And I had to do it quite quickly. I didn't have childcare. I had very, very low advance. I had no money for childcare. So, it was awful. So for the second book, or the books I've done since, I do the bit I don't like first, which is the plotting. You know, I just really, like I used to as a script writer, you know, scene by scene breakdown. How's this plotting going to work? With my latest book, 3 Hours, it was a nightmare of plotting. It was just awful. But once I've done that, then I can do the bit that I do enjoy, which is characters and themes and story. So I have like a structure there. So yeah, the first one was a real kind of lesson on how not to write a book. To start with.
I love that. So talk, 3 Hours at the moment is what is out and what people are reading and picking up, and have some great feedback from a lot of people, especially well-known people as well. So does that sort of validation from the big names give you that inspiration to keep writing, or is it something that kind of puts even more pressure on you, knowing that these people are reading this work?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's just me as a writer or the few writers I know, but self-doubt is a big part of it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think for each book I have huge self-doubt. I never think I can write another one ever. It's always like a new journey right from the beginning, and I hate it. I just think, you know, am I ever going to have an idea? Am I ever going to be able to make it into something? Is it going to work? And then are people going to hate it? So no, I don't. And I think writers are very generous to other writers. And I think it's something that I really appreciate. So a writer can be really nice, but I don't always take it at face value. I just think that's really nice of them. So yeah, it's something I really appreciate in other authors.
Can we just go on? Am I going to interrupt, Chris?
No, I was just going to say, have you got a set genre that you'd like to write in? Because your books have changed ever so slightly, like you said, in mystery, and now you could say it's more 3 Hours is probably more political, sort of thriller type. So have you got an area that you consider to be the area that you really enjoy and are probably going to like stick in for a while, or do you have different ideas for different books?
I really wish I did have an area. You know, I really wish I did. I tend to kind of be between the genres. It's like, and I get really upset if someone says it's a thriller. I go, no, it's not a thriller, because when I was writing it, I thought it was something different from. No, it's fine, because it is. It's not. And I think a thriller is a really good engine in a book. I think it's a really good motor. But it's all the stuff around it that interests me. So I suppose I'm kind of always writing between the genres, if you like. Saying what's a thriller, but a thriller a thriller reader who only reads thrillers might go, well, it's very wordy, you know, or it's very descriptive, or it's, you know, or some people that go on Amazon, boring. You know, you think, yeah, fair enough. If you're expecting a thriller minute, no interior thoughts, no descriptions, that's what it's going to be for you. And then, of course, you've got the literary readers that go, well, I thought some of it was lovely, but there's a lot of plot. It's a bit too thrillery. And you think, but there are some people that kind of like the fact that there's a bit of both. So I don't really think of genre when I'm setting out. I kind of have the story and I kind of feel my way through that story.
Yeah.
And then see how I go.
How does an idea then form for you from an idea, a little strand, to a fully formed novel? Are you one of these people that will just pick at it and build on it and maybe post-it notes all over the place? Or like, how do you actually physically go, that idea is really good, I'm going to turn that idea into a novel?
I think I try and brainstorm. That sounds a really awful phrase, but I try and think of what's interesting before I have to do anything else. Just what is interesting to me about this? What do I like about it? And try and mine it. You know, think, has this got the richness that I need? And that's just quite personal. That's, do I like this? You know, what's the theme that I'm exploring here, or what's the character I really like, or the relationship, or the location, or what is it that's really interesting to me? And if it's a political thing, I mean, for 3 Hours, you know, I was really interested in the sort of hate speech that I saw going on around me. I was really interested in what was going on, and thinking, well, I want to write about that. But what interests me also is all these other things, and I look at that for quite a long time, because I think that's the well you draw on when things are difficult. You have to almost go back and think, that's what really fired me to start with, or made me think this would be a lovely thing to write. And here I am, the plot's a mess, everything's a disaster, the word count's too low, but there was a reason I started this, and I think that keeps me going.
Can we just have a little chat about 3 Hours, and can you just explain to the audience what that is, what the story is about? Because it's a really interesting concept, and it's something that we don't normally see, but happens in America, perhaps, but not so much in Britain, where you set the book.
Yeah, so in the opening paragraph, and it's set in a liberal school in England, the headmaster is shot and badly wounded, and two teenagers grab him and drag him into the library, and they barricade the door with books. And the 3 hours then follows what happens over the next 3 hours. But it's not an American style school shooting. It's really not a sort of bloodbath. It's about what's going to happen. And we follow the parents gathering, we follow the kids in the library and in other locations in the school, teachers, parents, and it's told by many perspectives, including the police who are charged with getting everyone out alive. And what was interesting for me was it was almost like two time scales. So they've got the people that are hiding and frightened with a gun on the other side of the door, and time is going really slowly, and everything gets sort of more intense. So it feels really, the smells get stronger, the sounds get louder. And then outside of this, you've got the police and the parents, and time's whizzing past too fast. They know they've got a deadline to get everybody out. So I was kind of playing with time. And I wanted the reader, I mean, it does take longer than 3 hours to read it, but I wanted the reader to almost be like a part of it. I've kind of caught up in the reading of it as another. So that was kind of the setup, if you like.
Yeah, there were some fantastic reviews for that book from people in the know, and a brave, timely, crafted piece of work, astonishing, powerful, emotionally devastating, beautiful. It ticks all the boxes for reviews. So clearly that's gone down very well, and it was the Sunday Times Thriller of the Month as well. So there was lots of awards for this book. And is that your books all kind of look very similar in terms of cover? And is that something that was done intentionally? And are you trying to stick with this as a kind of a theme, or do you kind of want your works to be independent of each other?
I think what I really want with the cover is for the reader to know what they're getting inside. So if a sort of broad kind of description of my books is literary thrillers, I want someone to look to think, oh, it's a literary thriller. And I think the Times, I've got it here, says a brilliant literary thriller, blah, blah. And I want that to be really easy to see so that someone who's buying the book knows what they're getting. What I don't want is someone to get a book and start reading thinking, well, that isn't what I thought it was going to be. It's important to me that the reader knows kind of what to expect when they buy the book. It's like a contract, isn't it, with a reader, that's what's going to happen. So that's partly why the books might look similar, is they're trying to say, well, we're this kind of book. And if it was very beautiful and just flower, I mean, I had various designs given to me. The publisher were great at letting me have a hand in what was going to happen. And the hardback was a beautiful, beautiful design. But it didn't say it was a thriller at all, which would have been fine by me. But I think it would have kind of startled people that were reading it. So I chose something that I think reflected the writing inside or the story. So the branding, I mean, I try and get my name as small as possible on the cover, because I don't really like it coming Rosamund Lupton. It's kind of awful. But I think 3 hours is quite nice to the types, it's quite an easy title to do something with. So.
There's a lot of versions of your books that are obviously international, so different languages, and some of them have different covers, and they're all quite interesting, to sort of look at in comparison. But do you have a favorite cover of all of your books, including the ones that have been translated?
I think it's still the English version of Sister, actually. Still, that's and it was copied a lot. And in fact, in Holland, there was a really interesting story. So they published it with a different cover. It was a woman reclining on a chaise. I've no idea why. Nothing to do with the story. I mean, it's on a sort of silk chaise thing, and there she was, and it was like, and it didn't sell at all, not at all, and it was quite expensive. And then a new publisher came into the publishing company, and he used the English cover, and he put it as €10, and it sold. I mean, it was in the bestseller chart for a year and a half, I think. Simply on a new cover and a price change. And I saw it going from sort of 450,000 to number one for however long it was. And that was just publishing. That wasn't, the book was identical, and the reviews would have been the same. So it is interesting as I was saying to you earlier, I think the packaging of a book in terms of its success is worryingly impactful, I think.
Yeah. Do you think that was down to literally the cover difference, or do you think that was part of the, I guess, marketing that was involved after that cover change?
I think it was price. I think it was price as well. €10 in Holland is really cheap.
Yeah,
it's not for us here, but in Europe they pay more for books. So it was cheap, and it looked kind of intriguing. And it said, and I think that, and also the women on the kind of chaise looked really depressing. I mean, I wouldn't have picked that book up. It looked awful. So I think there's no more. One cover was so bad that they could only go up from there. So I think that's what it was.
Did you have a lot of choice in those covers, or are you quite happy to leave your designers to come up with something and trust what they do?
Foreign publishers, I don't have much input. I mean, 3 hours, I sometimes can say, please don't. I mean, I really don't like anything gruesome, if at all possible. But no, I don't. I mean, my name is changed. I'm ROSAMUND LUPTON or something in one country. That really isn't my name. It's very nice, but so no, I just see when they send them through. I see what they're like. But yeah, in England, people are pretty good at letting me have a say.
So this is going to sound like a bit of a stupid question, but do you think if you hadn't have been a screenwriter and writing scripts for television, that your novel writing would have changed drastically? Or do you think that's had a big impact on you as a novel writer?
I don't know, because I don't really know how other writers who haven't been screenwriters write. I mean, I tend to write in a series of scenes. So I will do kind of a scene breakdown, and I will write scene to scene. I think what it did do, I mean, I wrote for ITV quite a lot with 2 ad breaks in an hour. And so I had to get really good at structure and really tight. And the other thing that in screenwriting, of course, you get paid. It's very normal. You get paid so much for one draft, for the redraft. It's all in your contract. So it's absolutely normal to do lots of drafts. That's seen as part of the process. And I think that was something I definitely brought into novel writing. I just expected feedback and that I would make it better. That the first draft wasn't, even my first draft, which is probably draft 10, wasn't going to be the end draft that would get somewhere. So when I was given notes, and for Sister, I have to say it got a lot better because I was given a lot of notes by a lot of people. And, even if you don't agree with it, you think, well, a reader didn't see that or a reader misunderstood that. So I need to make that better. So I think maybe that helped. And I think the sheer joy of having lots of words from the screenwriter, which is so limited, and then to be able to use lots and lots of words was very exciting. So, but yeah, I think structure is probably what I got from TV writing and film writing.
So if we take you back to that moment, then you've drafted your first novel, you're sending it out to agents, and you're being rejected, as you said before. How did it feel then when you actually got accepted by an agent, but then when they read the full manuscript, they're like, "Oh, this needs to change," or "This needs to change," like you said before?
What was really interesting was I actually got accepted by a publisher before an agent.
Oh,
so
right.
Then that was really nice because I could,
cut out the middleman.
Yeah, and also it was very nice. I get an agent, much later saying, "Well, I suppose I could read, I could talk to you," and you go, "No, I've got a deal. Actually, go away." Which was very nice. I actually had one agent. This is awful, but they did say they turned it down with a photocopied letter, and then about 2 years later, they put online what they were looking for, and they cited Sister, and it was the same manuscript that they turned down. Yeah. So I do have a bit of a thing that it's the right person on the right day. And that's something that it's not you and it's not your work. And I can have proof of that. Someone's saying one time photocopied rejection, next time we are looking for this. And you think you really weren't 2 years ago. You didn't even contact me, So I always
Incredible.
I think they kick themselves every day.
I think the art of picking yourself up and dusting yourself down is absolutely crucial for a writer. I mean, it's a bruising experience. It's really bruising. And I don't know anyone that's just wafted into it, even if the stories make it look like you had it easy. I certainly didn't. For screenwriting, I was broke for years. And then for writing Sister, the rejections, they're gutting. Every writer knows that. It's just every single one is awful. So
I think there's been a lot of writers that we've talked to on this show, and they've almost every single one of them has said, if you could have something, out of your writing career, what would it be? And a lot of them have said just to be able to keep writing. So that just proves that no author, doesn't matter if you're an indie author or a highly established one, you still have those doubts. And like we talked about, there's still that importance of trying to produce quality work, even 50, 60 books in.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is, to be a good writer, you have to be quite a sensitive soul. And that's also a really bad thing for a writer, because you're having to weather rejections or bad reviews or the Amazon madman who just kind of guns for you. And so you're having to be two things. And I think that's quite difficult.
Have you had an Amazon madman?
Oh, I have lots. I really do. And I've taught myself not to read the reviews until at least the end of the day.
Okay. So you still read them?
Oh yeah, no, I'm terrible. I do, and my family will say that I will look at the 1 star and not the 5 stars. And it's like, what was it?
It's true. Unfortunately, I think we all do it.
Three Hours is interesting because it seems to be like either a 5-star or 1-star book for people. It's definitely, there's not much middle ground there.
How frustrating is it for you, for the people that go, the book was great, but it arrived 5 days later and the package was wet. But the book was good, but I'm giving it 1 star because of Amazon.
It's hilarious, which I quite like. It's like, oh my goodness, 1 star for the packaging, that's fine.
Yeah.
Didn't
we speak to someone that said they got a 1-star review because they thought they were like a soup or something?
The thing is, the trick I've learned is that you look at their other reviews and there's always one for a kitchen gadget. Always. Yeah. And the other thing is that people are very bad at choosing books. What I've realized, if you look at a 1-star, every single book is 1 or 2 stars, and you think you really don't know what you like to read. And 5 stars, all 5 stars, because that person really likes reading and they really like the books they choose. So I think quite often it's just you think, oh, I really wish someone could advise you on a kind of book you might like more than all the books you've been choosing.
I think Goodreads is a brutal place for bad reviews. They seem to be out there with a mission sometimes to just target people and give them bad reviews, but that could be the case, like you're saying, that they've got a history of that as well.
Yeah, I think it's always really nice. I mean, I can't remember if I look at my review and it's bad, and then you see something like A Little Life has been slated, and you think, oh, fine, I'll take that. So it's always, you need to look at the company you're keeping, and if they've hated other books you've loved, then yes, they don't like the kind of books that you're writing and reading.
Yeah, definitely.
Chelsea said I got a 1-star review without a review. Over crazy.
Yeah, but that's mean. They should say why it's 1 star, and it's probably the packaging or it arrived late, or the one I had last week, which was bought it for my wife's birthday. She hasn't read it yet. 1 star.
Oh, that is fantastic. Have you ever been given something awkward by a fan?
No, the only time I find it really hard was in Denmark, signing things, and you have to write to so-and-so, and all the little symbols and in a foreign language, and that was really challenging, and goodness knows what I wrote. I sometimes have to write quite long messages. I had to write obviously the couple had broken up and he was trying to get back with her, and it was, dear bloggings, please forgive me for, and I was like, oh, because I was writing the inscription in the book. So that was quite fun. Yeah, don't know if it worked. Never heard.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if your book is powerful enough to save a marriage or bring a relationship back together, that's amazing. So we have some staple writing community chat show questions that we're going to ask, if that's all right. And one of those is, if you could rewrite the ending to any novel that you've ever read and make it your own, which novel would that be and why?
Which one? Oh, let me think about this for a second. Which novel would I do that? I think it would probably be War and Peace, and it would probably say sequel to follow.
Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then there would be another one, and I would have written War and Peace. That would be very nice.
Wow.
For that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
We normally get I can't answer that question just yet. So well done, well done. If you could take a character from fiction, TV, literature, movies as a screenwriter, any character at all, and then use that character as your own, what character would you choose?
Oh, this is really, I'm going to have a quick look at my shelves here, which probably aren't going to help me hugely. I think any of the characters from A Little Life, I don't know if you've read it, but they're also wonderfully developed. I would take any of them and plonk them into any of my stories, and they would improve it hugely. I would just let them have a chapter or two occasionally just to strut their stuff as a character.
Wow.
Just put them in any of your stories. You wouldn't take them in a new direction?
It would unbalance the stories a bit, I think, if I plonk them in one of my novels, but I think they would definitely up my game.
Yeah.
Nice.
Amazing.
So, a slightly different question. Sorry, that's my 2-year-old shouting in the background. I think he wants to ask a question. But if there's been a lot of Netflix shows and stuff like that, and books being developed into TV shows, and obviously with your experience, if you were given that option to do one of your books as a script, and knowing full well that it was going to be produced, would you do that, or is that something that you would probably step away from?
I think I'd find it quite hard because I've written it in the format I wanted. The only book of mine that I would be happy to is one called The Quality of Silence, which was mother and daughter in Alaska on a kind of road trip, basically. And it was dark and cold. And as I was writing, I kept thinking, I'm writing a movie script. This would be great as a movie. And I haven't had that with anything else I've written, and they haven't been in a format that I thought would work very well, certainly for a film, but maybe for TV. Whereas The Quality of Silence, I was writing, I was thinking, God, this would be great. I'd really like to write the film of this. So that's the only one.
Well,
and
sister,
I felt frustrated. I couldn't conjure up the darkness and the snow, and so many words were cold and dark. But if you saw it and you heard it, I mean, I've been to Alaska for research, and the sound of the wind on the sort of Arctic plains is quite extraordinary. And you can't do that in a book. You can't get the volume.
Sister has been optioned though, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's always seems to be under option by somebody. One day it will get named.
One day, if when I guess that finally happens, would there be someone in particular you'd like to play your main character?
I have to keep very stum about that. Actually, yeah,
interesting.
Yeah,
we will move on.
Yeah. When I can.
So actually, jumping back to that very quickly before we move on, writing research in Alaska. Tell us more about that, because that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, well, so I just laid the very bare bones of what happens in my story, which is a woman and her deaf child, which is important because it's a lot of sign language and that kind of thing. And they get in a truck to go to the north of Alaska to find her husband, who's presumed dead. And so I go on a research trip for this, and with my husband, long-suffering husband, and we get to North Alaska, but not as north as I want to go. So we go to Fairbanks, which is very cold, and and we're going to get a flight right up to the north. Wow. And there are no flights because there's a blizzard. So I say, well, we'll get a taxi, which nobody will take us apart from one guy who says yes. And this old beaten up van arrives. There's no snow tires, nothing. And we get into this van and set off down the Dalton Highway, the one that Ice Road Truckers is set on, that road. And we're going along. And it gets really dark and really snowy, and we skid, and he has to stop and put on snow chains. We get a bit further, and I go, is this safe? And he goes, no. I go, we should turn around. So yeah, that was bad. And of course, my character, my story, she can't get a flight, and she does go by truck to this thing. But it was interesting, because I would stop and talk to truckers as they're filling up. I waited until they were like filling up the tank, which you imagine takes a long time with one of those huge lorries, and then go and talk to them about their job. And I met one guy who was just a poet. He was just like this poet on the Dalton Highway. It's absolutely fantastic.
That sounds like a good book title.
Yeah.
Poets on the Highway. Yeah. Someone said, let me find this. Going back to the last question, is there anyone you would not star as your character?
Well, I can't answer that, can I? That's awful. What if that actor wanted to be in it? And I was like, oh no, because I've said on the show. I
was going to say, we won't tag them, but that would be disastrous if they actually got you the film and they said, oh, we've managed to get someone in for the acting.
I'm really discreet there, actually. And no, I'm going to be no.
Anya, you can't ask those sort of questions. Terrible. But you did say lol at the taxi bit. So, cool. So let's move on to, we'll do the new family member first. And what this is, we introduce someone that is on Twitter that's followed the show, and they may have quite a small following on Twitter. So we try to give them a bit of a boost.
Brilliant.
People that are watching or listening to this podcast can go on their Twitter, tag them, and you can choose a GIF of any sort that you'd like, and then we will post that GIF on their Twitter. So, Rosamund, is there something that you really like that we can post on their Twitter feed as a GIF?
So anything at all?
Yes.
You mean like puppies, cats, mountains, anything? We've
had some very bizarre things, but yeah, literally anything you like.
Okay. A ginger cat would be quite important to me.
Okay. Is there a reason why a ginger cat would be important?
I'll tell you why. Actually, it's quite sad. So we have two ginger cats. One died quite recently, and he was my kind of publicity cat, because he was very photogenic and he would drape himself over anything I was writing. So I would photograph him, and on Instagram, that they obviously liked him very much. And his surviving friend is very important. And so I'm a ginger cat. I wasn't a ginger cat fan. They're both rescue cats, and I said for both of them I didn't want them, and of course now ended up completely besotted. So yeah,
we read a quote once on this show, and it was to keep a cat on your desk when you're writing because it boosts productivity.
Well, there you go. I think that's right. I have seen writers that have a special box on their desk for the cat to climb into so it doesn't lie over the keyboard, because that is a kind of danger.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll have to play this video, otherwise some people might shout at me for not doing it, because I sometimes let it slide. But here is the new family member video. Always debate that choice afterwards. So Luke Defoort, at LUCDEFOR. He is a CEO at Cinema SAR, whatever that is. He's a filmmaker. He writes scripts. There you go. Activist, journalist, IT specialist, quality and original movies. And he's building a team, so be part of it.
Okay.
So he's got 1,989 followers. Can we get him to 2,000? Would be nice. But he seems to be a very busy person, and I like that.
Yeah,
so
fantastic.
He's crushing it, as they say. So while you're doing that, I'll just have a little mention about this again. Oh, sorry, I'll leave that on the screen. The Page Turner Awards we've mentioned. I've mentioned this a few times. We're kind of linked into them at the moment, and they're for indie authors is fantastic. There's lots and lots of competitions you can enter for free, and all the prizes there's some massive prizes, but they're all based on career development of your author. So you can win lots of packages that boost your career. I said through January that they're open to accept entries. I was lying because I found out today they've opened today. So you haven't missed anything. But they are accepting entries to their competitions today. So just go to the Page Turner Awards on the Google and you will find them. And get involved because it's free. I believe so, Chris Hooley? You always show me this, but does he not say those things on his Twitter bio? Because
it does, but I'm just checking because he said he had 2,000 and he's closer to 3.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, he had 1,889 like a few hours ago.
Well, listening to the show must have helped him because he's at 2,500 now.
I doubt he jumped up that quick. Let's be honest. Wow, he's literally crushing it. Okay, so yeah, visit the Page Turner Awards, get your books in there, and you can enter manuscripts unfinished as well. So don't just worry if you haven't finished everything. He's missing a T in the at apparently. Default.
Oh, brilliant.
Is that real? Oh, okay. I may have messed this up. So Luca Default, maybe, which makes sense because that's his name. So have we just found someone else? Come on, Chris Hooley. Anyway, so the writing community question time. While we're doing this, guys, he's gone quiet. Chris, have you muted yourself?
Oh yeah, I said I'm sending ginger cats to everyone.
Everyone can have a ginger cat.
I've gone quiet because my 2-year-old is literally shouting his head off in the background, and every time I hear him, I have to press the mute button so it doesn't come onto the podcast.
Chris, don't sweat it. When we had Noel Clark on, he had about 6 kids running around behind him, and he did not care.
But I want to tell my missus to tell him to be quiet, but I can't text her because her phone is in this room.
And Anya said she has tagged the right person. He has 1,992 followers, which makes sense. So it is with the T. So sorry for confusing you all. That's that guy. Job done. So writing community question time. Send in your questions, guys, and we will ask them. Strongly. Anyway, so we have a first question from Vince. Hello, Vince. And where is Rosamund from? Was she ever part of a local writers' club? Doing your research there, Vince?
Yeah, no, I spent, after university, I was in London for about 15 years. And at the beginning of that, I was in a writers' group, a local writers' group. Well, we weren't that local, but we would all meet up together, all writing different kinds of things. And it was really helpful. That said, I think one thing I find with writers' groups is you do have to be really careful of whether someone's got an agenda or they're jealous or you are jealous. I mean, I think there's all sorts of emotions that come into play. And I actually find someone reading my book for the first time who's not a writer, it's my sister, really helpful. That sometimes you just need someone that is just going to read it as a reader would read it. So, yeah, it was helpful, but can also have its challenges, I think. I don't know if other people have found this, that there's always some guy that's going to put you down. Which isn't helpful. I think writers groups that are mutually supportive are wonderful. But it can be a challenge to find the right one, I think.
So with that being like a group that you were with university, do you still speak to any of the members in that? Or
no, this wasn't university people actually. This was just other people that were writing that came together. And university, one of my friends from university, she's a writer. And she was a clown for a while in Paris, and then she ran a theatre company, and then she's a police officer, and now she's a writer. So we haven't kind of paralleled our lives at all, but rather marvellously, she's now a writer. So that's lovely. And she's extremely generous, and it's very nice when we read each other's stuff. But as I say, I think writers' groups are great when they're really supportive. And it's just making sure that really is a supportive environment. Because I think, as I said, we're quite not fragile flowers, but we're quite sensitive beings. And I think it doesn't take a lot with a book to knock your confidence so that you don't write anymore, you don't finish it. I think, for me anyway, I can't take much more than it's brilliant. Otherwise, it just crushes me, really.
Well, the future of this podcast is an amazing writing bar that we've been discussing all week. So that's going to be a cool place full of support, which you're welcome to come to when it finally opens. In about 15 years, perhaps. Who knows? Cool. So thank you for that question, Vince. We do have another one here, and that says it's from Anya. Where would you like to travel next for your research? So we've had Alaska. Is there somewhere specific you haven't gone that you'd really like to go to?
It was interesting with Alaska because actually going somewhere cold was really interesting. I mean, I hate the cold, but it was amazing. And having been there, I went on a husky ride thing, and you go off track. No one's ever been there before. And the huskies, because it gets too warm in the summer, they go to a glacier in the farthest north. So my next trip would be to go further north than Alaska to this glacier where the huskies go.
Wow.
I'd really like to see that. Yeah.
So you'd go back to somewhere that's cold, even though you don't like the cold, because it's that impressive.
It is extraordinary. Yes, it really is. And to be somewhere where other people have never been. On this journey we did, you get to a point where there's a kind of cluster of kind of post boxes, and that's where the kind of civilization ends, if you like. There's no more electricity, there's no more post boxes, there's no more kind of people, or there's occasionally pass a very beaten track and that will go somewhere, and then you're just in the wilderness.
Wouldn't you feel exposed by that?
I found it kind of liberating, actually. It was. I think it's only that I was grounded somewhere that wasn't at all like that, and I was visiting. I think to actually suddenly be there and having to survive was completely terrifying. But visiting it was extraordinary and really powerful.
Because we had Will Dean on the show before, and he was literally we were trying to do the interview, but the signal was terrible because he was filming from a shed in Sweden. I always mix them up. But he put a video on Twitter the other day of him walking to his writing cabin in the pitch black with his big Bernard dog. And there was like a bird flapping around the corner. So it was like a horror movie. And I was thinking, do you know what? I don't know if I'm not a very scared person, but I'm not sure I could live in the wilderness like he does.
No, I come back to sort of kind of easy living. You know, I like people actually. I do quite like it. I'm in a village. I like that.
So on that note, I was going to say, if you're out there in the wilderness and you're stuck in a cabin, the snow's all come around the cabin, it's locked you in, you're going to be in there for probably a year, but you've got enough food to survive. You've only got one book that you can take with you. Which book are you taking?
Oh God, it's like Desert Island Discs, isn't it? But in the snow. It's really, really interesting. Oh God.
It's also a bit like lockdown, Chris. It's a bit sad, really.
It is. It has to be a really long book, wouldn't it? Because otherwise it would be, I don't know, something like Love in the Time of Cholera, I think. Something like that. Something just beautiful and that you could read a few times and always get something different from it. I think I'd take something like that.
Anders says, no worries, Chris. One of my characters always mix up Switzerland and Sweden too. Is it me? Do you base a character on me? Anya says, I love glaciers and I hate the cold. The raw power of nature can be so sublime.
Yeah.
I really hate the cold too, but I've heard that like places like Alaska isn't the same sort of cold.
Oh, it is.
Okay.
It's crazy. The difference is you go prepared. At least you go with all the right kit. So, and it's really funny to see everyone walking around like kids with the mittens that hang down from the sleeves, with the so that you don't lose your mittens, that kind of thing. I think you're just better prepared for it. Whereas when it gets cold here, everybody's cold because we don't have the right gear. So, it was really kind of, when it's dangerously cold, where you realise actually this is serious cold. You can't go unprotected or you will get frostbite.
Good question, Vince. What's your favourite line from any book? What would you say is the best line you've ever written? Two questions.
That's a good question.
Really interesting. I think Reader, I Married Him has to, it's corny, but I just love that breaking of the fourth wall. I just think that's brilliant. What would you say is the best line you've ever written? Oh, I have no clue. I absolutely have no clue. I'm trying.
Have you got a badass line you've written?
Oh, off the top of my head, I can't think of a single one. No. I mean, there's a kind of theme in the last, and it's not a good line, but it's the headmaster says to this teenage girl that he's comforting, that love is the only thing that really matters. And that's through the book of all this hate and violence. That's the line that sings out and that the characters abide by, although it's not repeated. So for me, that was a kind of what I didn't realize when I started writing the book, but what I realized I was writing as I was writing the book. Maybe even when the head teacher said that to her, I thought, so that's what this book is about. So yeah, for me, that's an important line.
What about you, Chris? Have you, in your work, have you written something that stands out in your mind?
Do you know what, mate? I can't think of a single line either. I knew you were going to come to me, and I was just like, what have I written? I couldn't even tell you the last sentence I wrote. That's how bad my mind has just gone blank.
That's the lack of sleep, Chris.
You say that. That's exactly what happens to me when you suddenly say.
Lack
I
of
was
sleep.
going to ask, have you got a favourite line, Chris?
Me? There's a few random ones that I can't exactly remember, but there's one I wrote about, if you fight monsters long enough, you'll become one. It's something like that. I like that because you see it in so many good things, and I like that line. So it's kind of not stolen, but it's been done many times before.
Nice.
But it was my own twist on that, really.
So I was going to ask the morbid question, Chris, because I realised we forgot it from before. But the slightly morbid question is, you're on your deathbed, you're looking back at your writing career. What would you be happy with?
Well, that's a really interesting question, isn't it? I don't know. I think it's always the latest book I've written. I think I always have to think that's the one. So I think, 3 hours probably. Although the quality of silence for me still, it's the kind of quietest book, but it's the one that I think is most meaningful to me.
Chelsea said, I forgot like 90% of what I wrote in my book about 2 seconds after I hit publish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a common thing.
So true.
And Joanne, hello to you. Correct me if I'm wrong, and apologies if this came up earlier. It didn't. I see some of Rosamund's books are available as ebooks and some are not. Is there a strategy there might be that they might?
I think with ebooks, I think they're all available as ebooks. I think then the hardback comes out, the ebook comes out at the same time. It seems to be been done for me.
Joe, did you not? Can you not find some ebooks? If so, let us know which ones they are. Maybe we can have a look at it.
Which country are you in, Joanne?
Joe's from Canada, isn't she?
Oh,
I think
that might be the thing, because my last book isn't published in the US or Canada.
Oh, there you go.
So it won't be available.
You can't read it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, we've done a few competitions, and in fact, Joanne won the last one, and I gifted her a collection of books from I can't pronounce his name. I got it wrong on the day. Matt's.
Yeah.
So I tried to gift it to Joanne, but because she's in Canada, it was like not having it. So Amazon, for some reason, you can't gift a British book to America or Canada. I just wish they'd sort that out, because why not? It's through email. What's the problem? Amazon, sort it out.
Yeah.
Strange. Okay, so let's have a little look. Any more questions, guys? Send them in, because we're going to wrap up soon. Okay, so Rosamund, some random questions for you. We haven't done these for a while, so I thought I'd bring them back. So if you had to choose, keep one, get rid of one, Elvis or the Beatles?
Keep the Beatles.
Any reason why? That's quick, very quick.
Because I just love the Beatles, and I will play them all the time. So I mean, I think Elvis is brilliant as well, but the Beatles are mine.
What if you got a favourite Beatles song?
No. Well, apparently I used to dance in my playpen to Yellow Submarine. So that remains a favourite, completely song. I love it.
So if there was one song, not by the Beatles, just any song in general, that if it disappeared, you had to rewrite it, so it was either how it was, or if you thought you could improve it, which song would be like the go-to song where you'd be like, I know all the lyrics, I could probably rewrite it, it wouldn't get lost from history?
Oh no, I'd be a terrible songwriter. I can't even go there. I would just be so bad. I would just apologise to any lyricist. No. I have to say, I would like to claim any of Adele's songs and her voice. I think that my
And her personality as well.
everything, basically.
She's hilarious.
Yeah.
Anya, I don't think I've heard of the Deaf Beatles, but
There we go.
By the way, song. Well, have you seen the film that was about the Beatles? What was it called, Chris? When he forgets that they existed.
I haven't seen that. It was a clever concept. It was a Richard Curtis one, wasn't it?
Well, I was going to ask you, as someone who's written script writing, if you'd liked it, if you'd seen it, but
I hadn't. I knew there was quite a lot of controversy about it as well, wasn't there? Someone else claimed to have written it earlier.
That's ironic.
Yeah.
Called Yesterday. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, Yesterday.
Yes,
so I thought
it
was a bit weak, to be honest, but the concept again was good.
That's clever, really clever concept. Yeah.
Okay. There you go. For your information, 3 Hours is not on US Amazon.
No, it's not, because I don't have the US publisher for 3 Hours.
No, there you go.
So,
what else we got? Pineapple on pizza or no?
No.
Yes. Great. Ooh, Chris.
No, I like kind of peppers and chilies and things. I
like those too.
Yeah.
Victory.
Yeah.
I actually used the question in one of my online lessons, and the kids were outraged that I even suggested it. Pineapple on a pizza. Yeah, they were like, "No, that's just totally wrong." And I agree, but Aga is a fan of the pineapple on pizza.
Well, I'm not a massive advocate. I just know it's a big discussion topic, so I would happily eat some, but I'm not, shouting about it. But it's a question that causes much debate. Yeah, some there, pineapple.
Pineapples, great.
Okay, apparently the author of the book that it was based on, who was paid, was completely cut out from it, and Curtis took all the credit. That is rude.
Yeah, I heard that as well. Well, I read it. I think it was really, really sad.
And pineapple should be allowed, is the argument. Yeah. Okay. Do you Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
I think so. I think that's just correct. We have had one Star Trek fan in the whole time we've asked that question.
Well, it's a bit of an unfair game, isn't it? I mean, if you look at the budgets, probably of the two. I mean, didn't Star Trek? They just had to sort of move around like that a bit. Well, I think it's not really a fair comparison. I'm trying to give Star Trek guys,
Are you up to date with Star Wars? Have you watched it all?
I've watched some of it quite recently because the rest of my family are quite keen on it, and during lockdown we watched some. Yeah, and the new Baby Yoda has been a big
I have not done it yet, and I will.
I really like. Yeah, the Mandalorian's fantastic.
Yeah,
loved it.
Yeah, we had a writer on recently that was involved in the next section of that story, but we couldn't talk about it.
Oh, no.
So yeah,
genius. I thought the Mandalorian was really well done.
I've heard good things, and I heard it's very much in homage to sort of the original three, which I really want to watch for that reason.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's got character development and story, and it's got some cracking visuals as well. But it's
talking about character development, Chris. Rosamund, Kylo Ren better baddie than Darth Maul? Yes or no?
So start again. I missed the beginning of that.
Kylo Ren or Darth Maul? Which one's better?
Darth Maul.
Yes.
He doesn't have a character, growth. There isn't an arc there. He's just there and he's dead.
I think sometimes baddies don't really,
Oh yes, there we go. It's just all about that 3 minutes worth of menace.
Well, you know what? You're absolutely right. Why does a baddie?
I'm just very bad waters here. This is.
No, this is all fun. How disappointing. Maul there, yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's our next fancy dress, Chris. You could dress up as Darth Maul. And I've
not even thought of that. Yeah, definitely doing that.
Fantastic. Excellent. So we're hitting the hour now, so we'll have to wrap up. But obviously, before we do go, we want you to sort of talk about where you can get your books. Obviously, not in the US in ebook, and your website. Have you got that address that they can have?
Well, my website's not great. I mean, I have to say, it's kind of fallen between the two publishing stools. I've changed publishers, and my website has kind of died really. But do follow him if you want to on Instagram or Twitter. I'm not great at social media. I'm just apologizing in advance for that. I don't have, but yeah, it'd be lovely to see more people on there.
Yeah, excellent. So I just popped it up on the screen there at www.rosamundlupton.com. You can find.
I would ignore that. I've got an Amazon page that has stuff.
Okay. I thought your website was all right. You know, I had a good look around that.
I did some of that myself. I was going on there. I lost it all now. I could change it. It sent me a really awful message saying, you know, the whole thing has changed this and changed that, and unless you sign up to this, it will evaporate. And I didn't, so.
Maybe we should start doing websites, Chris, because, you know, why not? Yeah. Honestly, I didn't think it was that bad.
Market for that. Oh God.
Yeah.
So Rosamund, we've got one more question. If somebody's watching this now and they only have time to get one of your books in their reading calendar, which book do you want to direct them towards, and why?
I think 3 hours, partly because it's quite current. It's got Trump tweets in it and stuff. It's quite of the moment. So I think that's the one that I would read this year.
Nice.
Amazing. I am just sending a message to the group to say thank you very much for turning up. We appreciate you. If you could support us by sharing, as you always do, maybe leave us a review somewhere if you can. We really appreciate it. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube if you haven't, because we need that to grow. But thank you so much. And Rosamund, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And there's plenty more things we could talk about, but obviously we're trying to keep this down to an hour, so we can't.
It was lovely. It was really nice. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Excellent. Guys, thank you very much. We will see you on Friday. We'll announce the guest details of that maybe tonight, probably tomorrow. So hopefully you'll have the rest of the week, and hopefully whatever happens in America, we're not talking about that, but hopefully it's what you kind of want and things are positive. I don't know. Hopefully you'll have a good week, and we'll see you on Friday. Guys, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.